Hello and welcome to a new edition of Nollywood Week and the very first talk, the very first of a series called Demystified. As the name can explain, the idea for this conference is to demystify some of the notions of African cinema, and today we are focusing on theatrical distribution. I believe I have my guest with me. I don't see them, but we're supposed to have Helen from South Africa. We're supposed to also have Aimee. I can see Aimee Umutoni from Rwanda. Hi, Aimee. So Helen from South Africa, I think she's connecting. Okay. Okay, I see Moses as well in Nigeria. Hi, Moses.
Hello.
Okay, good, perfect. So it seems like the connection is working well on that side. Waiting for Helen. Okay. Hi, Helen.
Hi there.
Hello. Okay. I think we are only missing one participant right now from Tanzania, but he will probably connect with us a bit later on. Okay. So thank you very much for all of you to be here. My name is Serge Nukwe. I'm going to moderate this session on African theatrical. Most of the focus these days is on streaming platforms, and so we are taking a different route with this session, and we are very happy to have a great representation of the continent with East Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa. I think we're only missing the North and maybe Central Africa as well, but we have a great representation of different cinema chains that are present in this panel, and the idea will be to go over the challenges that are your challenges today, as well as how to overcome these challenges and how to be able to boost this industry that we're in right now in this post-COVID world that we are all looking for. So before starting the conversation, I would like to for you guys to introduce yourself. I will start with you, Aimee. Aimee from Canal Olympia, for those who don't know, and if you can say a few words about Canal Olympia and developments there. Thank you. Sound. We can't hear you, Aimee. I don't know. Your mic is on? Oh, I don't know why. Yeah, we can't hear anything. Okay, while we try to sort this out, let me bring Moses in, and then after that we get back to you, Aimee. Moses, if you can please introduce the company you represent. Okay, Moses is also having technical issues, it seems. Moses, can you hear me, Moses?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, the rain in Lagos has just messed up all the internet. I have a backup and another backup, but issue. Sorry. Can you hear me though?
Yes, we can hear you. So if you can introduce Film One and Film House, sorry, and yeah, so that we can get the conversation going.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Nollywood Week. My name is Moses Babatope. I'm co-founder of Film House Cinemas and Film One Entertainment.
It looks like we are not blessed with the connection today. Okay, Moses, you seem to be back now. You seem to be back.
Hi, so sorry about the internet connection. It's usually very stable. My name is Muziba Watawe, co-founder of Filmhouse Cinemas and Film One Entertainment. Filmhouse Cinemas is a cinema exhibition company headquartered in Lagos, Nigeria. We have 14 cinemas in 7 states of the country. We are partners with major cinema technology companies like IMAX, like MX4D and D-Box. We are the largest cinema chain in West Africa. Film One Entertainment, on the other hand, is the content side of our media entertainment group, and that is focused on content creation, content production, content distribution, and content aggregation. We are exclusive licensees of Disney, the Walt Disney Company, of Warner Brothers, and we have distribution arrangements with Empire Entertainment out of South Africa and Huawei Media out of China. We are the largest supplier of Nollywood content to major streamers around the world, including Netflix. We are also market leaders in the theatrical distribution space in English West Africa. It's great to be here, and I look forward to having great discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. Helen, are you with us? If you can please give us an introduction of indigenous films. Helen, we cannot hear you right now, Helen. I don't know if your mic is on, but we can hear you.
Now you can hear me?
Helen, okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear. Okay, all right, perfect. My name is Helen Kuhn. I'm from Indigenous Film Distribution. We do exactly what the name says. We are particularly focused on local content, feature films, some documentaries. We distribute across all platforms into the cinemas here and elsewhere in Africa when a film is suitable, which is kind of tough because many of the local films end up with quite high age restrictions, which means it's quite a challenge to be able to release in many countries in Africa. We obviously then we represent all rights exclusively if we take on a film. So after cinema, naturally, VOD, pay-per-view, OTT, streamers, pay TV, free TV, we equally sell to Netflix and Showmax and so on, like Moses said they were doing. And we are, in fact, in the same content group as Empire Entertainment, where they are focused on bringing content from the rest of the world into the country. We are focused on creating and distributing content here. We do invest in films. We have a development arm from a script point of view, headed up by Tandeka Zwana. So we're currently working on a film fund structure. And again, I mean, we overlap somewhat with Empire, but we are particularly focused on local. We do between 10 and 12 films in a year, and we've been around for about 11 years now. We've released over 140 South African films and a handful of African films where they have been suited to this territory or could find a market here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Helen, for this introduction. Aimé, I believe you are back. Aimé? Oh, no, Aimé is not. Okay, she's coming back now. Aimé, can you hear me? And are you able to introduce?
Yeah? Yes, I do hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Aimé. I live in Rwanda. I work for Canal Olympia Network, which is present in 12 African countries. And with Nigeria, we're the second, we are the 2 countries that entered the network as English-speaking countries last year in December. And we focus on international content. Mainly, we have Hollywood content. And we also look to having more African, regional, and local content. But so far, we have not yet received enough offers on that regard of local content due to what is happening now with the pandemic. People are not producing as much as they would love. And of course, also there is a problem with local content where people don't know yet how to release in a theatrical way, where people just rush into YouTube or into DVDs before really taking the momentum for releasing in a cinema and getting the marketing done right. So this is where we are now regarding Rwanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. This is a perfect segue for one of the important points that I want to touch on in this conversation, which is local content. We have a company here called Indigenous Films, so they're exactly right in that lane. But maybe first with you, Moses. I know that when Filmhouse started, box office was mainly driven by American films. That was almost 10 years ago. What is the situation now in terms of how is the box office split in Nigeria between American films and local films?
Sorry, thank you, Serge, for the question. You can hear me now? Okay. It's been a remarkable progress since the 10 years ago that you mentioned, where Hollywood films have dominated the Nigerian box office. In fact, the pandemic has created a situation or a platform where local films have really, really come to the aid of Nigerian cinemas. Without local films in the Nigerian cinema space, I think essentially a lot of companies would have gone bankrupt. So I am so glad to say that, finally the potential that we've always known existed happened last year, where the split, I believe, I don't have it, it's on our yearbook, where the split was, I believe, 55% Nollywood and 45% Hollywood. That's the first of its kind that it's ever been. I think this year it's looking about 65-35 in favor of Nollywood. We've actually had a Nollywood film released every week. Normally, in terms of volume or in terms of quantity, Nollywood has always had a good share of the proportion of total films, but it's been the box office size that has never really been there. It's always been a handful of films doing well. What we've seen at the tail end of last year, where there was a big restart and resurge, was that a number of films had started coming to the fore and generating decent average box office. What has then happened in this first quarter of this year has now been that a number of films are coming to the mid-tier 4, and I've added, to the box office number. So put it this way, there has been the box office gross in Nigeria is about 1 billion as of the first quarter of this year. 1 billion naira at the official exchange rate is about $2.5 million. Of that amount, Nollywood films have taken $2 million. And you can just do the maths of the percentage share. So it's a simple answer. Nollywood is dominating now, but we're not also carried away. We've not had a lot of Hollywood content, but the truth is the local content has kept us alive. And it's great to see that it's not just local content supply, there's local content demand to, feed cinemas and to keep things going. And we've taken lessons, and I imagine we'll talk about it further on in the conversation, but that's where we are now. We hope that even when Hollywood comes, Hollywood would encourage more cinema going and more appetite to watch variety as opposed to substitution of content to watch.
This sounds really, really good. Very positive. It's a really great picture that you are painting. But I was just wondering, when COVID hit, I believe the cinemas were closed for quite some time. I don't remember exactly how many months that was the case in Nigeria. So were all cinemas able to bounce back up like Filmhouse, or there's been some closure? Can you give us a bit of a situation on that?
So cinemas were closed here for 7.5 months, from March, and a lot didn't open till October. Some opened in November. We're grateful through the efforts of the Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria that we were able to put pressure on the governments. We're able to really, really engage with them on the importance of keeping a virgin industry that has been a major outlet, formal and validated outlet for the industry, to keep it alive. You let the cinemas die, and essentially one of the biggest voices, loudest voices, of the industry is dead. And I think they saw reason, and a part where they could have, used the one size fits all approach to disadvantage the cinemas. They didn't when the wave 2 happened, because in as you know, end of November, December, and January was a strong crisis. But one way or the other, we kept cinemas alive. Have there been casualties? Yes, there have been casualties. There have been a few cinemas that have not been able to come back to existence, but I'm glad to say majority of the cinemas, at least over 90% of the cinemas, have come back. Let's not also forget that Nigeria had the twin challenge of not just the pandemic, but the NSAS social justice cause that then got hijacked, where a number of cinemas were also affected. So that kind of stunted the progress that was being made. But like I said, I'm glad to say in the era of the pandemic, we've seen the highest grossing Nollywood film of all time, the second highest grossing film, released in cinema of all time, a local film, Omogeto. We've seen, a number of 100 million plus releases. 100 million is our standard here, which is $250,000, is our standard here for a blockbuster hit. If you consider that we have just over 60 cinemas that are DCI compliant, generating 250,000 plus and more. And like I said, for a film like Omogeto, which did 640 million, which is over $1 million, just shows you that, there's still an appetite for cinema with the right content. So we're really happy.
Okay, thank you very much for this panorama, Moses. I would like to now go over to South Africa, where the situation was also difficult during COVID. I know, Helen, you are more on the distribution side, but I believe you work closely with Ster-Kinekor and New Metro in South Africa. So maybe you could give us also some a point on the situation about how the cinemas were affected by COVID, and also what is the share of local South African films in South African box office?
Well, unfortunately, we're not in the position that Moses is in with local content in South Africa. The share of local content on average is sort of 21 to 25 local films released annually. And the box office percentage of the industry at large runs at about 7% of the total growth at this point in time to be able to say that local content dominates. The numbers are kind of similar. If film does decent numbers, it does, around 4 million rand or more, which is in line with $250,000. But big blockbusters in South Africa do 15, 20, 25 million rand. So then you're talking about $1.5 million and upwards. As far as the cinemas are concerned, yes, they were also closed from March until September, and then started opening gradually. But we had a second wave of COVID in December. Again, of 9 o'clock, the cinemas to, they were not able to do 8 o'clock shows. And here, 8 o'clock shows, that 8:30 slot, can easily add up to 50% of the business of the day. So it's been really tough on them, but they have started recovering. There has been casualties. Some are more on the independently owned cinema side. We have about just under 40 complexes that are independently owned in South Africa, and then about half of the cinemas didn't pull through. On the biggest exhibitors, Theatrical, they have a market share of about 68% of all 100 screen. Theatrical had a handful of sites that were casualties, but 99% of them are operating. They stopped trading on Mondays, and most of the trade is on weekends, naturally. New Metro has been fine. They haven't closed any screens, but they reverted to weekend trading only some time ago, and will continue with that strategy until such time as matters normalize. So it's, they were affected. It's you're talking about a 6 to 7 month closure, and then a slow recovery, which was then expecting December to be pretty big. And then, of course, because you have such a heavy reliance in South Africa on international content, we don't even vaguely have enough local films. I mean, we need to quadruple what we're doing as an industry at the moment. In Nigeria, the guys are way ahead of us in that regard. The moving of dates of international films, which are worldwide dating processes, obviously driven by the studios, really hit them significantly. So the reliance was pretty heavy on independently bought or acquired content, and there was very little local content available in the pages on the film. A big chunk of them went onto streamers or television or what we call the cinema window on the VOD box office offering on DSTV. So we've got a pretty big film releasing in about 2 weeks from now, which hopefully will be that film that brings some audiences back to the cinemas again.
Thank you, Helen. I believe you have Ali from Tanzania who's now joining us. He was a bit late, but he's now here. Ali, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've already started, but can you please introduce the chain? I believe it's Cinemax that is called, right? Cinemax
Yes.
in Tanzania.
My name is
Okay.
Ali.
Okay.
I have some cinemas here in Tanzania under the name of Regal's Cinemax. We have screens in Dar es Salaam, we have screens in Arusha and Tanga. Hopefully, we are also planning for next year for Zanzibar. So let's see, inshallah, how it goes. But right now, things the way they are. God bless us.
Yes, we were just touching on that, and it's been a difficult year for cinemas all around the world. I think. But how is the situation in Tanzania? Because COVID, I mean, Tanzania hasn't been as affected by Tanzania as other countries. So are the cinemas operating? And we have another visitor as well. Hi.
Yes,
has Tanzania been Tanzanian cinemas? Have they been operating at full capacity? Is it half capacity? What is the situation there?
We have not been asked to shut down or anything like that. There was no lockdown here, so cinemas are operational. However, the customers or the patrons are not coming, so the occupancy is less than 2%.
It's the 2%.
The COVID issue, it's not officially announced, but people are scared. People are not coming out. Hence, there are no releases. Everything is on stream now on OTT platform. If you notice, a lot of movies are coming on OTT platform. So yeah, it's been a difficult year and a half, but as far as I can see, this year is going also. We're gonna struggle the same way, although Hollywood is opening. If you see Fast and Furious is scheduled for June, right? Mm-hmm. Those Who Wish Me Dead is scheduled for 14th May. There are movies coming. However, the challenges that we're facing is that people have no money. People are not coming for this entertainment because this is part of a luxury thing. It's not a necessity thing. So people are looking at the necessities first. They've kept the priorities straight. So I personally think that this year is going to be a challenge also.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Eme, not too far from Tanzania, in Rwanda, can you tell us? I know Canal Olympia in Kigali is brand new. It was just opened in December. I was lucky enough to be there actually when that happened. Can you tell us?
Yes.
How has it been? Oh.
Yes.
Okay,
So
tell us, Amy, how has it been?
So can you hear me well? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes. So as you said, Serge, thank you. We opened in December. So Rwanda has like strict health measures that led us to close again in January for 4 weeks, as we had like we have the second wave was really striking, and we reopened mid-February. So far, it's going well. So we have a capacity of like 1/3 of the cinema can be used. And in the whole network, we are normally 16 theaters. Half of them are open, with the capacity depending from ranging from 15% to 70% according to countries. And so far here, people are really coming to the cinemas. They love movies, and we are also the only cinema open currently. We had one competitor, but he didn't reopen after the lockdown we had last year. So we are the only place, cinema place.
Cinema?
The Century Cinemas, Rwanda. He went to the cinema that was there for like the last 5 years. They haven't yet reopened since last year. So we are the only movie place currently. Although we don't we have maybe 2 that people really enjoy coming in family, and mostly they like the top 3 movies are family movies, action movies, and comedies, and we have also, of course, fans of horror movies. Like 18% of people really like to watch horror movies. And what we saw also is the hunger for local content, or for a content that is has a background in connection with Rwanda. We released last year Petit Pays, which is a French movie, but with a story that is happening in the region, happening in Burundi, but it was shot completely entirely in Rwanda, with Rwandan crew, with Rwandan cast. And I think it was our best seller of all time since we opened. It stayed 3 months on schedule. So things are going well, I must say, and we don't complain.
Thank you very much, Aimee.
You're welcome.
So we see that there's an appetite for local content. It's the best illustration of that is in Nigeria with the numbers that Moses gave us earlier. In South Africa, we see that there's a bit of a struggle, or maybe a stagnation when it comes to local content, and the market is clearly dominated by international and American, obviously, content. I think there is something interesting there also to discuss. Is within Africa, when we talk about local content, we usually talk about the content from the country. But is there room for content that would be regional, that would be from West Africa, that would be from Southern Africa, East Africa, that could also potentially be successful locally? Is that something that is being worked on? And what is the potential of not exactly local, but regional content? I will start with Moses on that one. You mentioned 55% for Nollywood, so the rest is basically Hollywood. But is there in between a bit of room so that movies from movies from East Africa, for instance, could maybe have a share of the pie of the Nigerian box office? Is that something that you see happening, or is it not really happening at all?
So I think there's potential for that to happen. I don't think it's in the immediate term. I think that it will still take a lot of deliberate, strategizing and deliberate work behind the scenes when it comes to the kind of stories that work. I think one of the blessings of a lot of people have seen the advent of streaming as a challenge. But one of the blessings has been to also understand how broad the taste of our audiences have been, particularly in Nigeria and West Africa. So you've seen films from Philippines, from India, from Turkey, from China, from Brazil, hit the top 10 in Nigeria. Yes, I understand that, once you've paid the one-off amount, of course, you're more relaxed and, you can watch a variety of stuff, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you're watching. So we've been able to see that. One of the also other learnings we also saw is that actually the number of Nigerian films coming on Netflix has also validated the quality perception of Nigerian films, and therefore there's been more of a willingness to see Nigerian films in the cinema in the first window. So we're seeing actually the ripple effect affect cinema positively in a very weird way, particularly consumption of local content. But coming back to the regional approach to content, Nigeria, I think in terms of tackling a market like Nigeria, or even, for example, talking about South Africa, we need to understand the peculiarities of each of these local regions. Once we understand the peculiarities, we then need to factor them in the content that we're looking to present to them to release. I think what we've not done very well is to understand what works well in Southern Africa in terms of local content. What are those nuggets? The big films that have worked, what has worked well there in terms of genre, in terms of story. In East Africa, what has worked well there, you know, and then in West Africa, what works. Once we understand what works, then we're able to factor it into a film product, you know, working with the best film producers, filmmakers, you know, on how to get this film product. Then, crucially, is how do we market specifically to the regions? You know, we've always talked about this Pan-African approach of empowering each other, but you know, our strength is also in our diversity and in how different we are and how different we consume, you know, marketing communications. And I think that that's what we need to work behind the scenes. I don't know whether that formula is going to be easy to crack, but whoever cracks it well is definitely going to unlock something really big in the market. So Nigeria, as much as we're proud about what the local content is doing here, we're still very small infrastructurally when compared to Southern Africa, for example. So if you compare the number of screens per million population in South Africa to Nigeria, we're nowhere near, you know. But if you're able to still do a film that can appeal to the key regions, then essentially you're unlocking potentially, you know, across, you know, sub-Saharan Africa, you're probably unlocking, you know, a third more screens than you would have in each of your markets. So I think that the key is about strategy. Nigeria responds very well to stars. It responds very much to light-hearted genre content. So comedies, action comedies, you know, dramas with strong entertainment. You know, East Africa, we need to learn what kind of things work there. I know that on just watching the number of our films tracking, you know, it looks like the dramas work very well there as well as comedy. Southern Africa, we need to understand that as well. So if we understand and put those pieces together, I think that it can work. I really, really believe that, you know, it can work. I like to do a lot of my comparison with the music and sometimes with the food. I know music is easier to produce, but we've seen successful collaborations between West Africa and East African music, West Africa and Southern African music. In fact, Southern African beats now influencing a lot of West African stuff. So we need to also take learnings from them. Music could actually also be a unifier in terms of, you know, the kind of product, you know, that will work across the continent. It's something I'm very keen on, and it's something I wish to have conversations on. It would not be easy, but I think it's doable.
Thank you very much, Moses. We have Southern Africa and East Africa represented here, so I would like to hear from you, Helen, especially when, as Moses said, the amount of cinemas that exist that are just there, that are available in South Africa is a huge amount compared to relatively anywhere in Africa. There's nowhere in Africa where you have as many cinemas as in South Africa. So the fact that that market is still so heavily dominated by international films is basically it prevents the growth of local South African films, but also the growth of other African films. So what can be done for that appetite to grow in South Africa for not just South African films, but also regional films? You know, is that something of interest? Are some of the blockbusters from Nollywood, are they released in South Africa? And if so, how well do they perform?
Just let me kick off by saying there's definitely, we need to crack the formula. It's not cracked. We're not even close to it. And I mean, we're working with two from here. We've been working on a project that is a rom-com that combines Nigerian talent with South African talent, and we all find that, you know, comedy, romance, action is what hits the high numbers in all the territories. But language is something to consider. I mean, South Africa or South African films have, so something traveling on the continent or in a particular region, it needs to be in English. and then it can be localized or dubbed if it needs to be presented in other languages or subtitled in various countries in Africa. But I mean, we've got one example from Netflix, a film called Seriously Single, that the feedback from them was it was the first film from here that really did big numbers in South Africa and Nigeria, and that was completely a chick flick, and it didn't have any Nigerian elements in it. So they certainly are. It is about story. If the content is strong and the stories are strong, and music absolutely is a unifier. I mean, music is totally critical in a film. Um, there's lots of work to be done for us to get. We have to get the filmmakers to work together as well, because sometimes the creative approach is very different from region to region. But there's definitely potential. The Nigerian films in South Africa, there's been a handful. Some of them were that Moses did with Empire, uh, released locally. I think he did Wedding Party 2, 10 Days in Sun City, and I forget the third one, Moses. There was another one called All About Love, which is also a Nigerian film that released here, but it had some South African talent in it. The numbers were really small. They tend to do, if I look at the 5 examples that there are, they tend to do between 300 and 400,000 rand, which means in dollars, $30,000. So the numbers have been small. In our top 10 of all times, there are 4 local films. So, and they are all comedies, all family stories. Our market is very segmented. You can make, I mean, the film that we're releasing next week is a film called Barakat, which translates to blessing in English. But it's particularly aimed at the brown community and the Muslim part of that. But it's a family story. So, I mean, we're really expecting it to do really well. Other titles that have done really big numbers, they've all been family stories or romance. There was Happiness is a 4-letter word, which had big local stars in it. And then Keeping Up with Kandasamis, Mrs. Right Guy, they're all either family or romance ones. And then there's the slapstick comedy. It's typical. There's a certain kind of slapstick comedy that does really big business here. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Helen,
But
I
it
would
is
like to know.
absolutely possible.
I would like to know if, like Moses mentioned for Nigeria, if there is a strategy or like some thinking in South Africa about how to be able to integrate more African stories within the box office. Is there something in the works so that that situation can change or not?
Yes and no. I mean, as a local content focused business, it's definitely on our horizon, and it is in our slate. On a governmental level, I would say, also yes and no. I know that there's been attempts at treaties with other countries in Africa that we can work together in a more formalized fashion. But we need, we all need that one film that cracks the formula, because once one comes along, then it makes it easier for the others because they stand on one another's shoulders. If you have one film that's got talent in from various countries on the continent and it works in various countries, then that becomes the basis for it. So there's a lot of work still to be done. I think, coming off the back of not enough volume of local content as it is, we don't have, I don't know if Moses is saying they're releasing a local film every week, that means to me they've got, more than 50 local films in a year. We're not there. We need to double our numbers. So it's something that still needs a lot of work, but it will happen, and it can happen, and it will work. We must just all collaborate. It's an absolute yes. I agree 100% with everything Moses said as well. It's the same for us. We would want our films to travel to other countries in South Africa, but we need to make family content here. We do, political content doesn't do any numbers in South Africa. And if we make dramas, there's a lot of violence and, let's just call it, sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the local films, which gets the higher ratings and makes it impossible to release in other countries on the continent. So our variety isn't a balanced mix at the moment. It's radically improved from what it was 10 years ago, but it's not, there's still too many dramas and too few comedies and romances, and we can't really afford the budgets that you need for an action film. So hopefully now with the streamings and the Amazons and the Netflixes and so on of the world, if there's other places where films can earn revenue outside of just a cinema setup or its own country, the potential for revenue will increase. So we will be able to make other genres as well that cost more to put together.
Thank you, Helen, for this. Over to Tanzania now, because East Africa, East Africa is critical. East Africa is a big market, and especially if you think about the Swahili language. Swahili is spoken in Tanzania, but also in Kenya and even in parts of Rwanda. So, what is done in Tanzania for local content to thrive?
Well, right now we have some producers. Some filmmakers. They have produced a film called Binti. I think you guys have heard about it. Previous to that, we had a movie called Bahasha. The challenges that we face here is the piracy. Also, the income. An average income here is about $50 a month. So extra spending money is not there. The market, yes, the population is big. We have 55 million here, but only 6 million people have the funds to do to go for this kind of entertainment. We are working with numerous producers to try to promote this local movies, so it doesn't hit the streets, so it can come in the cinemas with a cheaper pricing, so people can enjoy it and people can come and see the experience of cinema, and hence get used to that cinema. What do you call it? Experience, right? There are a few movies that some producers are thinking of doing for this year also. I believe Binti was screened in Kenya, Rwanda also, right, Amy? Did they screen it in Rwanda?
Not yet, but it's on our plan for June. Not yet.
Oh, it is there. So it was screened in Kenya. It's going to be screened in Rwanda. I don't know about if they had if they spoke to you, Helen, about this. It's a really nice movie, actually. Really well done in terms of content wise, with the sound, with the effects. They've spent money and they've done it really well. I don't know if they spoke to you about this. If Seko spoke to you about this, Helen.
We actually have been to the festival as well, but
no, not yet. But not yet. But I'm quite happy to look at it. Definitely, to see what the possibilities are.
However, this is all. It is in Swahili language. Of course, there's subtitles for English. So we are working with numerous upcoming producers and directors. Again, finances are challenges. Finance is a challenge, big challenge. Making a good movie costs a lot of money. As Moses said, making a movie, fine, you can get a finance, but how do you market it to that level and to that international level so it can give you the numbers and it can reach out to mass audiences, right? Mass audiences, rather. We are working with the film board. They are really supporting the cinemas right now because we have a lot of piracy issues here. A lot of piracy issues. I don't know about other countries like Rwanda, Kenya, or Nigeria. We have a lot of piracy issues here. So,
can you give us also more basics? You mentioned the fact that the revenues and the salaries are low, and so people don't have disposable income. But how many movie theaters is there in Tanzania right now? How many screens in total?
Again, screens are not as many as South Africa or Rwanda. We have limited screens. For a capital city, we have only about 14 screens in maybe 12 or 14 screens in total, which is Dar es Salaam, which is which is still very much, because again, there are no customers to support those screens. Disposable incomes are not there.
But that's actually not bad to have 14 screens in the capital. That's not bad at all. And you mentioned that your cinemas are also in other parts of Tanzania. You mentioned
Yes.
Arusha.
4 screens in Arusha. Arusha is the second biggest country in Tanzania, which is predominantly for tourism, because we have the national parks here and all that. But again, the challenges are still there. Local piracy is a big challenge. But then again, we have been working with the censor board, which is part of the government, and they've realized that this is really eating up our business. So they are shutting this small vendors down who are selling movies for 500 shillings, which is less than 10 cents on a flash drive.
Okay, thank you very much, Ali. Maybe Aime in Rwanda, maybe since you are part of a network of cinemas that is spread over 12 countries, maybe you can tell us what Canal Olympia has planned to do for local content. Is there a particular policy so that African content can be consumed as much as the international content?
Yes, definitely. Our policy is to support after the productions. We don't co-produce, but once a movie is produced, we like it. What we do is support the distribution. Let's say they need to have a trailer. We can help them making the trailer, the posters, communication, just to show that it reaches a large audience and that it gets really a real mileage that it deserves. It's really on side of marketing that we intervene. And I think last year, my colleagues have worked with a film on Valentine's Day, Queen and Slim. It was a full success, unexpected, thanks to the marketing, to communication, to the trailer they did. We can also fund subtitles when needed, just to show that a local film can reach a large audience in many countries as possible.
Okay, and in
so
terms
that's
of
what we do.
And in terms of releases, how many? What is the frequency of African films in your new releases? Like, do you have does it depend on the market, on what's available, or do you have a set policy where once a month or something you release an African film?
Actually, we would love to have at least one local film per month, but it doesn't happen because the content is scarce for now. We don't have enough content to exploit, but also depends on countries. Like there is a film that can work very well in Benin because of the content, because of the background, and also well in Rwanda. So it really depends on countries, but our aim is to have at least every month we could have one local film to put on our schedule. That's our objective.
Okay. I think if you speak with Moses, you will be able to have more films.
Absolutely, you should get in touch, Moses. You should have your contacts after the show.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
And to get back to again, so we talked about Pan-Africanism, which we understand is not there yet when it comes to cinema because the markets are actually fragmented. Do we even have an idea of how big this market can be if films can easily travel from one side of the continent to the other? I don't know if any of you have a guess or some analysis that with some numbers, but it seems to me that based on the structural problems that we've talked about in this conference, it seems like if they are solved, the market is just sky is the limit, literally. I don't know if Moses.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think just looking at the numbers, but Ali puts it in good context because sometimes you can't look at the absolute numbers in Africa and think that everyone is your target market. Cinema is still very much a non-essential entertainment choice. They are more cheaper, easier, accessible entertainment options available. So we have to be realistic about that. That said, I think that, you know, the combination, let's look at sub-Saharan Africa. So consist of East, West, Southern, Central. I think that there is easily a potential 10 million tickets that can be sold if we're able to, like I said, like we mentioned before, and everybody has spoken about, find that right kind of product that would, you know, explode the market. I think that in Nigeria, we've seen our highest number of tickets sold for our highest grossing film ever, Black Panther, was just over 600,000 tickets sold. Our annual admissions, for example, in 2019, or I think, yeah, 2019 was our record year so far. I think that it was just over 5 million tickets, you know, in a country like Nigeria. And I know that that's not optimal, nowhere near. I know that there's still opportunity for us to market the cinema going culture, the cinema experience to a number of people. And so there's a lot of growth, and there's a lot of growth that exists with the current infrastructure in Nigeria. I believe that also applies to Eastern Africa. In Southern Africa, particularly in South Africa, I know that the market there is more mature, but they're very specific about what they want. Again, we find the right product and we find the right ways of marketing to them. I think that there are 10 million tickets that could easily be sold at, you know, an average of $4 to $5, and you can do the maths if we get the right kind of product. So if you say, you know, $4 $5 times 10 million, you know, $50-60 million gross to happen if we find the right product and we market it right. That's my take. But it would take a lot of work and it will take some time to unlock.
So what I hear overall is optimism, despite the situation, despite COVID, despite, you know, a lot of times people like to oppose and create some antagonism between Netflix and Amazon and the going to and the cinema culture. But what you're saying here, Moses, is that actually they don't have to be in opposition. They can actually work well together.
Serge, look, I know we're conscious of time. I am an optimist, as you said, but beyond that, I'm bullish. The market that we've operated in has continued to validate cinema-going culture. It's only showing us that we need to take advantage of the opportunities fast. We can also be complacent because, of course, more entertainment options are emerging. We can also not deny that the big tech companies have a lot of financial muscle, and therefore they'll put a lot of money. You know, it's a content game. We have to ensure that what is going for us, particularly in Western Africa, is we have a communal culture. We will celebrate everything. And I keep saying this to everyone. And that's what we would go out, we would celebrate launching a house, buying a car, you know, having a new baby. In fact, when we lose people, we'll celebrate everything. We want communal shared experiences. If we're able to translate this natural affinity for that into the cinema environment, make it affordable, make it accessible, let the experiences be very differentiated, and market it. Spend money, find capital to market it. I think that we're going to be the next China. We're going to be the next India because it's innate in us. It's like restaurants won't die. Yeah, we can cook the best meals at home, but we go out to a restaurant to have a differentiated experience outside of home. The same thing with music. We want to go out for the tours. So it's a shame that we're still having this antagonism. But I think Africa, we are just at the frontier, you know, at the cusp. But discussions like this should, and the numbers are demonstrating that people want to come out. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I think the future is ahead. I hope that the policymakers, those that can help us attract the kind of capital, you know, to put enough infrastructure out there that ultimately empowers our people and empowers our culture, you know, and gives us a good story to tell the world. I hope that they're listening and they can do more to, you know, to help us unlock the potential of this sector.
Thank you very much, Moses. Thank you very much for this contribution and for this output. We have just a few minutes left for this conference, and we have some questions that are coming in from the audience. Some of these questions have already been answered in the course of the conversation. For instance, one was asking if geopolitical stories are of interest, and I think it was Helen that mentioned that this doesn't work at all I mean, it doesn't bring numbers, at least in South Africa. Moses and Ali and Eme, would you confirm it's the same thing as well in Nigeria and in Tanzania and in Rwanda? Geopolitical stories are not really of interest? Just quickly.
I think it depends. It really depends on the story, on the director, on the the background story of that movie. I'm not against that at all. It all depends.
Okay.
And also on the objective, is it aimed at inspiring some people? Is it just showing some drama going on? It depends on the content. I think it can work sometimes. Yeah.
I think for Nigeria, it's touchy. It's very touchy. The censors board and the way it will be perceived. Is it told in a, like Amy says, in a light-hearted way? Is it based on true events? I mean, it's very sensitive. I mean, we've done something. I won't call it political. 76, a film by Serge, I'm sure you know about 76. That was very tastefully well done. I think things like that, with the right kind of authorization and the right kind of placing and marketing, I think we have great stories to tell in that regard. But I think that's where we can take advantage of the streaming networks to kind of prove that a market and audience exists for this kind of stories. And then the bolder move would then be, or natural next steps would then be, okay, let's make other ones and let's show it theatrically.
Thank you. Well, I saw Ali's finger was saying that no, he's not really. That's not really. There's no potential for that in Tanzania. There was another question which would be more directed towards Helen. Saying that with VOD platforms, the increase of consumption of VOD platforms during the pandemic, what are the distributors and production houses reinventing to improve cinema culture as their taste demand is fast becoming attuned to VOD? So I guess the question is, how do you guys adapt for a company like Indigenous Film to the new taste that seem to emerge from Netflix? I mean, Moses mentioned earlier how often in the top 10 in Nigeria you have foreign films that are being able to get into the top 10. Does that create a change in your in the way you do business, Helen?
It's a yes or no answer. We've seen a similar thing where African content and South African content being showcased on Netflix has expanded the base of people that are watching it. Obviously, it's a simple, numbers scenario. If the film is good enough, Seriously Single, for instance, was on the top 10 in 36 countries around the world. And on the continent, it made it to the top 10 in South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. So, the thing is, yes, the streamers are there, but every platform has its place. And because a taste for different kinds of content is being developed by the avalanche of content that's available on the streaming platforms, there will always be a place for cinema. You may just change your programming. You may not do 5 shows a day. You may just do 2. Be very particular about the footprint regarding the number of sites that you're going to be going out on. You relook the windows, whether you hold back for 4 weeks or 4 months or whatever before you go onto the next platform. The thing about the streamers and television and all of that is there's lots of content that really isn't ideally suitable to cinema. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be made or that there's not a market for it. There is a market for it, but it may not be a cinema market for it. So I think becoming more prudent with the number of sites or the number of titles that may go across all platforms following cinema is a natural way of adapting. And then secondarily, making some content that is aimed directly at a streaming world or a television world, and none of this is new. It's more a matter of filmmakers and creatives also now acknowledging that these platforms do have value, because there's a big romance between creatives and a big screen, which is natural. It should be that way. But to release in cinemas is a very expensive exercise. It's much cheaper to be on other platforms. And the key thing is obviously to make sure that your marketing is driving the platform where your film is available, to not focus all the marketing on the cinema release and not have a further campaign or a standalone campaign for the next platform, where it's a pay-per-view platform, or where you can in fact earn more revenue if you have a stronger campaign behind it. So it's just accelerated the willingness from creatives for us to be in a position as a distributor that we can look at the best case scenario for every film based on where it's going to do the best numbers or reach the widest audience that is correct for that film. And sometimes that may include cinema and sometimes it won't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. As time is really not on our side, I would ask all of you to maybe say a last word, something that would summarize your position on the future of this theatrical distribution in Africa. And we'll start with you, Aimé.
Thank you, Serge. So as you understood, I am also very optimistic about cinema. And I also think we need to think of cinemas, not only the cinemas area, but using them for many purposes, for screening of football matches, premiering of TV series, events, because we are really in competition with the platforms. Now people can access content from many avenues than before. So we need to innovate and also increase the beauty of the experience that we offer to our clients. That's what I will say about that. Thank you. And I hope to meet you one day, all of you, Moses, Ali, and Hélène, and also Serge. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Aimé. Ali, what is your what will be your final word on the future of theatrical distribution in Africa and in Tanzania specifically? You are muted, Ali. You are muted. We can hear you. Okay.
Well, I just hope that the cinema industry does not die. Theatrical releases does not die, because Netflix and other VOD platform has heavily got the grip. However, there's a positive side to this. A lot of people are watching, so the influence is there, and hence we know now. I know now, as for my market, youngsters are watching on phones or whatever, tablets, and they will be enticed to come to the theaters to watch it on the big screen. Which is, I'm very happy that bigger movies are still not confirmed with OTT platform. They still have space for theatrical releases like Fast and Furious and other Black Widow. Although Warner Brothers has said that they will also release its own OTT platform, but I have full hopes that movie lovers who would love to see a movie on big screen, they will watch it on big screen rather than OTT platforms. So we are keeping the fingers crossed. This year, we are hopefully by June onwards, we will see a growth, because it just needs one movie to bring all the customers back. And that movie is going to be Fast and Furious. This is going to ignite again, and they will come back to the theaters. So we are very much optimistic about this.
Thank you, Ali. I'll go to Hélène and then we'll finish with Moses.
I think cinema will always be there, and I think for us in Africa, it will only grow. It's about going out. It's not just about a movie. People do want to go out, and a movie is still and will always remain a wholesome outing, and often, it's accompanied by either a meal or something sociable. It is a conversation starter. People discuss films once they've seen it. So the way we see always be there. I can't imagine it ever not being there, because as long as human beings are human beings, they're going to want to go out and see their friends. And part of that entertainment offering is cinema. So the demographic of the people that may go, or their frequency, that may change, but I think theatrical releases in Africa will only grow if we look at it as a continent, and it will always be there. I can't see, I don't believe cinema will ever die.
All right, thank you very much, Helen. Moses?
Thank you. It's been a great discussion so far with everyone. I think that the rebound that we're seeing in the likes of China, particularly, and some other parts of the world, is an indicator that, you know, this whole myth, I call it myth, about cinema dying and evaporating is just sensationalist, you know, talk. Our data, our numbers, we're very proud that in West Africa, and we're fortunate in West Africa, we've seen a rebound. It's great that we're having conversations, you know, with leaders across the continent on, you know, and being bullish about cinemas and the future of cinemas. We think that it will continue to grow over the next 5-10 years. We have a responsibility to ensure it stays by not being complacent, by not be overly dependent on just international content. We have to develop local content and local appetite across board. We need to be able to create our own local blockbusters. I think that that's the challenge that we need to continue to give to filmmakers. And we need to also tell them, talks about redirecting some of those revenues you're getting from the streamers to make that quintessential, you know, popular big screen film. I think that let's work together to optimize the revenue streams that has now, you know, emerged for the continent. Before the streamers came, the distribution platforms were very narrow. It was cinema and some pay TV, and you're subject to how much they'll pay. Now the streamers have come. Let it be complementary. Don't let it be substitutionary. That's all I have to say, and I hope that we get to connect outside of this and continue to build a thriving sector for our continent.
Thank you very much, Moses. I think this is the first time that Nollywood Week as a festival is not on the big screen. It's the first time it's on the first screen, so it's a fitted conversation to kick off the festival. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're very happy to have all the regions represented: East, West, and Southern Africa. It's been a great conversation, and I think there are definitely next steps to be taken so that the African market can become an African market, as opposed to just fragmented segments that are not all together and don't reach the potential. Thank you again. Yeah, this festival is ongoing and is online. So if you want to watch some films, we talked about Binti from Tanzania. We talked about other Nigerian blockbusters that are coming up. This is the place for you to do that. Thank you, and I hope to connect with you guys also at another time. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you all.
You too.